Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we talk about problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with a video.
I got married to this man after dating him for 4 years. I've known him since university as he was my senior, and we started talking when he was in his last semester. When we started dating, he'd already graduated. He would pick me up from university, and then we'd go roaming around the city and sometimes for long drives. He was that rich brat who was everyone's crush but would only interact with selective people, which made him more attractive. He joined his dad's office right after graduating and asked me if I wanted to move in with him. I was still staying with my parents, and when I told them that I wanted to move in with my boyfriend, they told me that they would like to meet him first. When I introduced my boyfriend to my parents, they did not seem convinced and told me that he did not appear to be responsible or mature enough. I was head over heels in love with him, so I didn't pay any attention to what my parents said and moved in with him. Everything was fine, and to be honest, I was living a dream. My boyfriend was so caring, and he would keep surprising me with surprise dinner dates and expensive gifts. We'd go shopping, and I could literally buy whatever suited me. He would never let any moment go dull. I felt like the luckiest girl in the world. As time passed, I felt like there was a huge communication gap between us. Even when we lived together, we would spend a great time together and would party or plan a road trip, but there were no discussions between us, and he was never up to talking about something. I would feel sometimes that he was only having a good time, and that was all that mattered to him. Whenever I tried to come up with a discussion, he wouldn't pay any attention or would change the topic altogether. This pissed me sometimes, but I thought he was just the way he was, and I had to accept him as he is. But this communication gap increased with time, and I think I was the only one who felt this. A couple of months passed, and I got to go through his phone. I got to know that he was still on dating app, which pissed me off. I asked him why he was still active on the dating app, and he told me that he was not using it anymore and had forgotten to delete his profile. I told him that if he was not serious regarding our relationship, he could just quit it and move on. He instantly hugged me and told me that I was overthinking and he could not think of living a life without me. He deleted the dating app and told me that we were going to dinner just to lift my mood. He took me to my favorite continental restaurant, and of course, I felt great. The issue was not that he would not show interest in me. The issue was that he seemed non-serious concerning our relationship and took it casually. Just a week later, I saw him texting a girl while I was passing behind the sofa and he was sitting on. I did not react at that moment, but I looked for a chance to go through his phone. When I finally went through his phone, there was no such chat, and the only chats were with his family or employees. This made me doubt him even more. I had seen him sending hearts and such emojis to a girl whose name I had read clearly, but there was no such chat. I got more vigilant and started checking his phone from time to time. One day, when he was taking a shower, I went through his phone and got my hands on that particular chat. It was the same girl, which turned my doubts into certainty. I went through the chat and they seemed very comfortable and cozy. I opened the media that they'd shared and I cannot even explain what they had shared last night. I was furious. I confronted my boyfriend and he told me that he'd made a mistake and begged for another chance. I told him that I was done and left his place. He did not contact me after that, which pissed me off more. I decided to talk to his dad and went to his office the next day. He was such a decent person and dealt with so much respect. I shared the whole story and told him that I loved him so much, but he did not seem serious. His dad told me that he'd had these issues since he was a kid, and no one could ever make him care. He told me that he would talk to him. My boyfriend called me that evening and yelled at me, telling me that I was desperate and how I dared to see his dad without him knowing about it. I told him that he was an a-hole, and I blocked him on social media. My boyfriend talked to my friends because I had blocked him from everyone to convey his messages to me. I told everyone that I was not going to talk to him ever. One evening, he came to my house and told my parents that he wanted to marry me. My parents told him that it depended on me and if I wanted to marry him, they had no problem. I had to give him a chance to discuss things, and we somehow resolve our issues. I told him that I had no other issue except that he seemed non-serious, and I wanted him to take our relationship soberly. He told me that he was never going to hurt me again, and it was a promise. We guys patched up and started preparing for the wedding. We got married, and the wedding was as grand as it could be. I was glad that things had settled between us, as I could not let this guy go because I loved him so much. Only a couple of months after our marriage, my husband was back on his previous routine. He would avoid discussions, take serious matters as if they didn't even matter, and was only interested in having a good time. We came back from our honeymoon, and he got busy with his work. Everything was acceptable, but he would not give up on flirting with every random woman. When our first kid was born, my man was not even in the hospital and was at some silly wild party. I had to contact his friends and ask them to find him and send him to his family. I thought that he would get serious once he became a parent, but I was wrong. I was going to deliver our second child in a few days when I found out that he had slept with his secretary. I was devastated and told him that I was not going to stay with him at any cost. Our second child was born, and after a couple of months, when I had recovered completely, I filed for divorce. My husband tried to convince me to stay, but I was just determined to clean up the mess once and for all. I divorced him and was able to win custody of my kids. I had already completed my degree and was able to land a well-paid job. My parents supported me throughout those years and made sure I lived a happy life with my kids. It was hard to manage at first, but I got used to the tough routine. I had banned my ex-husband from seeing our kids, but he was able to get permission from the court. He would bring expensive gifts for them and would take them to the amusement parks, but I knew he was never going to take their responsibility as he could not even take his own. My husband married his secretary right after I divorced him, and that explains what sort of a man he was. One fine day, when almost 2 decades had passed and both of my kids were university-going students, my husband texted me that I had made a mistake long ago. I told him that if it was divorcing him, it was the best decision of my life. He told me that I was able to win the custody of our kids, but I had lost something big. I told him that I could not understand what he was talking about, and he said that as he could not get custody of his kids, he was not bound to transfer his inheritance to his kids, and was now going to give everything to his second wife. I told him that he could do whatever he wanted to. I showed him that I didn't care, but this worried me as my kids had a fair right to that inheritance, and it would be very unfair if he deprived them of it. I read your comments and talked to my mom as my dad passed away some 8 years ago. My mom told me the same thing as you guys had said, that I should keep my ego aside and discuss the matter with my ex-husband, as there was no other way I could make him give inheritance to our kids. I could not convince myself to talk to him and beg for something, but it was a matter of my kids' future. I called him and told him that I wanted to see him. He told me that he would come over and we would talk, so I invited him for lunch, and as my kids would be away at that time. My ex-husband came and I told him that the conflict was between us and he could not make our kids suffer like that. I told him that depriving our kids of the inheritance just because we did not like each other would be absurd. He somehow understood what I meant and told me that he would think about it and left after having lunch. I told my kids that they had to take the stand for themselves, as they deserved inheritance from their dad, so if they went to him and talked about the matter, it might build pressure on him, and also he would definitely consider what his kids would say. My kids went to see their dad and conveyed how they needed his support for their future, and there was no one else that they could expect anything from. They told me that their dad had promised to give them his inheritance, and I guess he would stick to his word. NTA! OP's decision of divorcing that man was appropriate, and whatever she did was totally sane. No woman could bear this man being that irresponsible and careless while she took the relationship seriously. When I read that OP's boyfriend told her parents that he wanted to marry her, I knew he was doing that to sort things out and was never going to change, I feared that he was going to stay the same and ruin their marriage, which was true to that extent. NTA, OP remained so responsible till the date, and that man did not even try to change. The way OP decided for herself and raised her kids all by herself was commendable. She would have never talked to that man ever, but was only concerned with the well-being of her kids. The way she decided to put aside her ego and talk to her ex-husband should be appreciated because she was still worried for her kids only.
Next story.
I'm getting married in December. A few weeks ago, my sister, Anna, came to me and asked me to uninvite my friend. Let's call him Luke, and his wife, Julia. Anna and Luke used to date when they were in college. They dated for 4 years until Anna ended the relationship because she fell in love with her work colleague, Adam. Their relationship didn't last long, and they split 6 months later. My sister realized that she still loves Luke, who, by that time, was already seeing Julia. Anna tried to get back with him, but Luke already moved on. Plus, he discovered that Anna was already flirting with Adam, even when they were still together. That was 3 years ago, and I thought my sister had already moved on. She had a few relationships, but nothing was serious. So I told Anna I can't uninvite Luke and Julia because they're dear to me, and most importantly, Julia's a relative of my future husband. They're cousins. Anna broke down and told me that Luke is the love of her life. She told me how everything in her life right now is not working. She lost her job early this year and moved back to live with her parents. She literally begged me to consider her feelings because it will break her heart to see Luke happy with his wife. I told her that she needs to get over it, and if it's too painful for her, then she still has plenty of time to get therapy so she can finally move on. I said my wedding day is meant to be about me and my future husband, and I'm not uninviting anyone in my guest list. Anna stormed off and has not spoken to me since. Well, yesterday Mom called me and said I need to listen to my sister as she's depressed and in a very vulnerable state right now. I didn't know that my sister is depressed, so I told Mom I'm sorry and I can recommend a good psychiatrist to help Anna. Mom said she's already on medication, and as a family, I need to be a good support system for my sister. She said if I don't change my mind, then I should not expect my sister to be there on my wedding day. I am so confused right now. I want my sister to be there, and I want to help her with her mental illness, but I also want Luke and Julia to be at my wedding. I mean, there's plenty of time, and maybe come December, Anna's mental health might have improved. AITA? Anna dumped Luke for another man. When Anna regretted it, Luke refused to have her back. So Anna wants Luke uninvited from your wedding. You are NTA. Anna played a stupid game and won a stupid prize. Don't let her blackmail you. Besides, given that Luke's married to your fiancé's cousin, they're probably his guests as much as yours. To add, if Anna doesn't get over this, I don't know what is underlying it, and neither do you, but it's amazing how often people forget that they have promised to never speak to you again when you don't chase after them. Be prepared for the possibility of Anna demanding that Luke and Julia are barred from every family function you and your husband host for the rest of your lives. And don't give in then either. NTA, it's your wedding day, not hers. She's mad because she lost the love of her life, playing stupid games, and she's not willing to face it. Your mom needs to butt out of this. If your sister is unwilling to accept that her actions have consequences in this regard and put up with it for one day, doesn't say much about how much she loves and respects you.
Next story.
This happened a few years ago, and she's still super mad at me. So, as a backstory, when I, a 26-year-old female, was growing up, being sick was super shameful, like good people don't get sick and stuff like that. We had a rule that stated if you were able to do anything, you were able to go to school. Like if I was able to read, watch TV, or play Mario, I had to go to school. So I was literally sent to school with dangerously high fever several times because I watched TV under several blankets at home. We were also never allowed to miss more than one day of school. I have a very different approach to health than my parents, and I have some sort of serious medical issues, and because of that, I visit the doctor at least twice a year. My parents think that's absolutely ridiculous, and they constantly tell me to just suck it up or that I'm wasting money and so forth. On our last phone call, my mother told me super proudly that she had not been to a doctor for 4 years because proper people don't need to. During this time, she has been sick, BTW, and she's had issues that really should have been treated. In short, I told her that I won't apologize for taking care of myself. Just because she doesn't take care of herself properly doesn't mean that's the way to approach one's health. And not properly caring for oneself is not something to be proud of. I also brought up a bunch of issues that she's had that could have been fixed by seeing a doctor. I think she found me to be extremely condescending, and I think I was too. I was just super mad, and she didn't deserve that, but I think I was right, and it was after she basically scolded me for like half an hour for doing something that is necessary for my health. So I don't think I should apologize this time, but I could be wrong, so AITA? Holy shit. The comments in this post seriously made me cry, almost all of them. I never even imagined that this could be a form of abuse. My current health problems are, as some of you suspected, because I went without medical supervision for so long. I've never even thought that it was anyone's fault but my own for having such a frail body. You've seriously given me a lot to think about. Thank you for all your comments, especially the painful, honest ones. I think I really needed that. Since a lot of you have asked, my parents are very well off, so money is not an issue. Neither is being away from work. NTA, she neglected your healthcare as a child. That's nothing to be proud of. If she wants to play stupid games and win stupid prizes for herself, let her. What she did with you and your siblings is not okay, and also could have potentially made other kids sick too. Child